Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. It's the weekly radio show that informs you and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate, and it does it with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, I would think a majority of people selling their home expect that the buyer will purchase it as is without any repairs. But I've learned from you that the reality is most buyers do an inspection, and sometimes it goes well, and other times can be a little bit frustrating for home sellers. Tell us about your experience.
Well, Richard, I think part of the problem is that the, some of the buyers don't know what they're looking for, so they rely on what they call experts to tell them if their home is that they're picking to buy is in good enough condition for them to buy. But one of the weird things about this state is there is no license to be an inspector. Anybody could be an inspector. If it makes you feel any better, most of them get an online certification. And I could be an inspector, and I'm scary with a tool in my hand. And so some are good, some are awful. I've had landscapers do inspections on my listings. I've had the daddy of the buyer do inspections on my listings. Neither one of those went very well. Um, so all kinds of things can happen. And so I had to, it just reached a point where I couldn't take it anymore. And so I had to establish a new inspection policy. I know it sounds like very government-esque, but so every time one of my listing goes under contract, I have to send them an email with a video because they're not going to read the email. I can't even get them to read the MLS and say, look, here's my rule about inspection. So we'll go into the do's and don'ts and kind of what I expect later on in the segment. But you just never know what kind of expertise you're going to deal with, either on the agent side or the buyer side or the inspector side. So it gets really, really interesting. And a lot of times the buyers will ask for stuff after the inspection that is not reasonable. Let me give you an example. Just last month, I had a buyer come back and say, well, um, my buyer's insurance company won't insure a roof that's more than 10 years old. Therefore, we want a new roof. Is that a good reason, Richard?
That sounds like a horrible reason. If there's something wrong with the roof, it's been hailed, go ahead and do it. But
Right.
it's 10 years and it's perfect. What the heck?
Is 10 years and 2 months old. It's a high impact, high quality roof. We had two roofers look at it. Both of them said, this roof is fine. There's nothing wrong with this roof. And so we kind of just said no to the buyer, sent them back to the drawing board, and they picked a new insurance company. But some people are very unreasonable, but there is a way through the inspection process to kind of dispel the seller's fears and help them prepare so they're not surprised. Most buyers do at least one inspection. Some will do more than one. They might bring in experts to look at the furnace or experts to look at the roof in addition to their home inspection experts, and that's fine. But I would say overall, the agents are definitely not trained on what is normal protocol. I got a call this morning about it, saying, "Oh, well, we got the resolution, and you can't do that. It's not legal." And I'm like, so some of the stuff I get is just kind of funny. And there are a lot of assumptions made. And there are some agents that literally encourage their buyer to ask for things just to get stuff. In fact, I challenged one time when, there were two electrical panels. One was brand new, the other was older. There was nothing wrong with it, but he asked for $1,000 credit for a new panel. And I said, really, are you really going to terminate over $1,000? He goes, no, but I had to ask. He just had to
It's
ask for
not
something.
complicated enough.
Yeah. So I also have problems with behavior on inspections, extraordinary problems. I've had agents just walk into an occupied home without knocking, track snow in the home. That was the same event. Open the door, let the inspector in, then turn around and leave. I've had buyers, agents bring in not just the buyer. It's okay for the buyer, the inspector, and the agent to attend, but then they bring in their family members or outside contractors to give them bids for stuff. It is not time to have a party. In fact, on one of my listings, I absolutely got this panicky call from the seller going, what in the heck is going on? Are they squatting in my house? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, I just saw on the Ring doorbell that pizza's being delivered there. And it wasn't one pizza, it was 4 pizzas and a bag of wings. So it was a good question. Of course, they were out of town wondering what was happening in their house. So, I mean, crazy stuff happens on inspections. Um, I've had inspectors red tag the furnace because they took their little gadget to measure carbon monoxide. The gadget wasn't configured properly, and so it went off. And he turns the furnace off in the middle of February and says, oh, this is bad, made the buyer terminate. There was nothing wrong with the furnace. It was 18 months old. In fact, the gas company said, do you smell gas? And the seller's like, no. There's nothing wrong with it. It was his gadget that was wrong. Oh gosh, this is something that happens all too often where either the buyer's agent or the inspector asks the seller to leave their own home during the inspection. How would you feel about that, Richard?
You know what? It's still my home until it's sold.
That's right. And where does this sense of entitlement that they get to have the house all to themselves for the inspection come from? Maybe that's what's normally done, but it's not normal to all of my clients. And just last month, there was an inspection going on. The outside air temperature was 1 degrees, and he had a dog and 2 cats. And I said, you're home, you can stay for the inspection. So sure enough, I get a call from the agent going, well, the seller's there. And I'm like, yes. And she's like, well, that's just not professional. And I'm like, what? I said, are you asking me to tell my seller to leave their own home? Well, no, but it's just not normally done that way. I said, look, if you and your buyers want private time in the house, we can arrange for that, but it's freezing outside and he's not going to drag his pets outside and wait for 3 hours for you to do your inspection. Oh, okay. So I think people just, there is no training, there's no standardization for real estate. And so the way they've done it before to every agent's experience is the way it's supposed to be. And that's not necessarily the case. I had one agent recently who was sitting on the front porch yakking away, not paying attention to what his inspector was doing. In the meantime, this is a property with a well. The inspector went and turned every faucet, every sink, every tub, inside faucet, outside faucet on, not just for a short while, for hours. It was 3 hours of the water running. And of course, he sucked the well tank dry. It sucked sand up into the sinks and in the tub inside the house, which probably cavitated and damaged the well pump. And I get this text from my client going, why is there sand in my sink? I've never seen this before. I mean, they're idiots. And then the funniest thing was he put on his inspection report, and it's hard to see it in this picture, but basically in the report, he showed this little video with the water spewing out of the hose, but the actual gauge wrote 0. And he goes, oh, there's no water pressure. I'm like, oh my God, this is so bad. So there's no standardization for inspections. There's no criteria for them to be qualified. Some of them get an online certification. I've had the biggest trouble I have is the latest trend that started in 2018 is that the buyers want to check the sewer line, which I understand that if it's broken, it's a big ticket item. However, the way they go about it is not right. So many of the homes that were built prior to 2000 may not necessarily have a sewer clean out in the yard where you can easily unscrew the cap, run your little video out there and see if there's any roots or whatever in the sewer line. Well, if they didn't have it, what started happening is these Joe Billy Bob inspectors would come in and remove a toilet without permission and run their scope through the toilet. Would you like that, Richard?
No, it's still my house and I don't want anybody messing it up. I mean, you can make arrangements to do all kinds of inspections, but you don't have to do damage to the seller's house.
Right, and I've had them break the flange that the toilet's attached to. I've had them tear vinyl flooring. I've had them not properly reseat the toilet and cause leaks. It's a problem. So if you don't hire an agent that has the expertise to let you know what to expect and be able to put boundaries in place so you don't get one of these crazy inspectors tearing apart your house, it could be a problem. So what we do to solve the problem, we offer what's called a certified pre-owned home program so that the seller doesn't have to worry about surprises on their inspections. And so, when they come and ask for stuff, you don't have to agree to anything. But if you have a pre-inspection, you have a pretty good idea of what the problems are and what the problems are not on an inspection. So my name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. I've been here in the business since the 90s. I've seen a lot of stuff happen. And when we come back, we're going to go over the top 9 tips to avoid the fear of a home inspection and what you can do about it. And if you are thinking of moving, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That is Barb Schlinker. She's your real estate voice, and she's the owner proprietor of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, as well as the host of the program. We're talking about home inspection problems that home sellers face. So, Barb, what are some other tips that you have for our listeners, things that they should know?
Well, don't worry about the inspector nitpicking their home. They are going to do it anyway, and that is their job. So they're going to look for every little nook and cranny. And I've actually had sellers get really upset when I email them both the inspection report and what the buyers are asking for, which is not the same thing. Inspection report covers every little problem with the house, but what they're asking for is usually, hopefully, a different, shorter list. So sometimes people read the report first and think that their home is an absolute disaster. So I have to call them and go, don't read the report. That's just for reference. Focus on what they asked for. And it is a point of negotiation. So you really want somebody that knows how to negotiate when it comes to inspections. Some things are reasonable, some things are not reasonable. Sometimes you have to bring in your own contractors to solve the problem and see, well, is this really a problem or not? I would say probably half the inspections I receive on my listing, the inspectors will go around and they'll plug up all the sinks, the bathroom sinks, and fill it up and just run it for a while. And as a result, it kind of goes over to that little spillover part in the sink and causes a leak. And then they report a leak under the sink. Happens all the time. I've also had an inspector recently where the buyer's agent was up in Denver and couldn't be bothered to attend. And so her inspector, we were there, the seller was there, and on the stairwell going downstairs, he grabbed on it so hard that he made it loose. And then, of course, what shows up in the objection? Oh, you got to fix that. And we're like, no, it wasn't loose until you were grabbing on that rail. But she wasn't there. She didn't know. And that's what I'm saying. It's really important that you have somebody represent you for inspections because not everybody does that. They just, I've actually had agents say, can't you just give the combo to my inspector and let him in the home for 3 hours going over all your systems? And most of the home sellers that I talk to don't want that. And that's basically what I tried to do was create this inspection policy. And every time one of my listing goes under contract, I will send them not only a document about what the rules are, but also a video going over these things so that they don't push the boundaries. And, I used to try to, a lot of agents don't want to go to the inspections. They feel like it's a waste of their time. And so I tried to put a commission penalty in for them not doing it because we're the ones that get tagged if my client isn't represented. But I got busted by the MLS police. So I had to create a policy, which makes it very clear what the boundaries are. And if they want to pull a toilet, they're going to have to bring in a licensed plumber. And we're going to be there. And they should be there to represent their client, in my opinion. But I can't tell them how to do their job. So if you are thinking of moving, give us a call. We love representing our clients, 719 301-3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You are so good at representing your clients and the fiduciary relationship you have with them. You're the only person that I ever recommend. Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, your real estate voice show going on right now. And if you're thinking of selling your home and you want to get the most amount of money when you sell, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about agent showing nightmares, plus how to avoid them and Barb's hot new listing. Stay tuned for that.